Wow, the truth behind the Chris Paul and James Harden beef. Y'all are something else, man, for real. Y'all are really, really, really something else for this. Because this is like not news. This is really not news. Like, what everybody is making a big deal about is really not news. They've had these discussions through the season. They had this discussion last year. They on videotape going at it. And to be honest, the videotape y'all saw last year was not really them going at it. Chris Paul was sticking up for another player. He was going off on Truck Tucker for not doing screening, doing something with his guy. Him and Clint Capella just let the guy waltz by on defense in the game, and didn't even try to use a bodying technique or anything. He just kind of let him go by, and he was getting on them and trying to fire them up. And Chris Paul comes over and is like, look, I hear what you're saying. And then, Harden is freaking out like nobody's listening to me. Like I've been saying this over and over again, but nobody's listening. You're not listening. So it looked like he was going at it with Chris Paul, but they really weren't going at it at the time. Chris Paul was just trying to defend and stick up for the players. Last year, they had a discussion in the locker room during the playoffs in which Chris Paul just was starting to play, incredible during that stretch run. This year, Chris missed some games. They came back, and it wasn't that much arguing that much until it got to a point like near when it was getting near the playoffs. James had, and I knew this was gonna happen. The writing was on the wall, so you didn't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. When James Harden was on that run, he was on. When he was scoring all those points, the 40 some odd points, and doing this and that, I said, "Oh man, once the playoffs start, this can't happen. James can't be doing this, Terry. He thinking he gonna keep this streak going through the playoffs, and CP3 ain't gonna want that to happen. That's cool in the regular season. Once the playoffs start, CP3 gotta shine. This is stage. So naturally, I knew that they were gonna bump heads, and sure enough, they did. In the first round, they had a discussion in which James Harden, at the halftime of one of the games, he just started basically pouting and acting disinterested. He got the ball and started firing up threes every time the ball touched his hand. He wouldn't even go along with the play. And then they won the game. He hit some threes, they won, and that was that. And I believe it was against Utah, but yeah, he hit some threes, and that was that. Now, second round, they get the Golden State Warriors in the second round. Unfortunately for them, this is the team that knows how to play them and play them against each other. They're going to keep the pace so fast that Chris Paul and James Harden are going to be working like hell to keep up with the pace of the game. And once they keep getting ran and ran and ran and ran, it's going to break down. So after the first half of trying to keep up, Chris Paul is struggling in this series. He's struggling really with his shot, and he's struggling to get the flow of the game. He's normally a game manager, but when he came over to the Houston Rockets, we knew him as what? A clock management guy. He's a traditional point guard. Point guards normally hold the ball 12 seconds more than anybody on the team. They'll move the ball, but they normally take 12 seconds off of a 24-second clock. And then the ball starts to move. They need to let people get set in position before they start moving the ball around. Normally that happens at the 12-second mark. Chris Paul normally holds the ball for 17 seconds or 18 seconds, where it's only 5 seconds left on the clock when he decides to start passing, if he's going to do that at all. He's a very time-dominant person on the clock. So is James Harden. So you knew this was a recipe for disaster. Now, when Chris Paul gets the ball, normally James goes towards the wing and starts, trying to give them different looks. But he normally stands in one spot and wait for the ball to come and touch his hands again, as he's almost annoyed that Paul wants to take the ball from him and control the offense. He's not okay with it because he never seems to be a point in time in which he's okay with Chris Paul having the ball. He always seems to pout when Chris wants to bring the ball up or he's disengaged. Now, in the third quarter that everybody's talking about, that they had a big locker room fight after the game. They had a fight at the halftime of Game 6, which was like a firing up to get people motivated into going. And when you dealing with personalities such as Chris Paul talks very, very disrespectful. When he's in the locker room and anywhere else, he has that Napoleon complex down to a T. So he said some things to James Harden at the half. Like, come on, big man, you supposed to be this and that, this and that. All right, well, let's do it. The second half, I want to see y'all doing it on both ends. I'm going to play both ends. See, Chris was back running his mouth because he was having a good game. It was the best game he had in the playoffs. And definitely was sucking it up the whole tournament. But now he's shining. So at halftime, he decided to try to fire people up. And James Harden let him know, like, man, you haven't done it. You haven't done it the whole time. So that whole thing with James Harden is like, we out here battling. We've been waiting on you to step up and pull. You pull your weight. So when the game was over and they got into a heated argument in the back, and Harden basically telling them, you can't have one game that you show up. One game out of, he's like, one game you show up. You show up one game in the whole series, and now you talking as if you the man. So it was a big argument when it was done, but it is clear right now that these two are going to have these same problems next season. So if you're the Houston owner, you got a decision to make. You screwed up already because you stuck. You stuck with Chris Paul, who's an aged veteran and ain't worth that money, and that you paid him. So either you could find somewhere to move him, or you just stuck. So you don't have to be swallowing a lot of cash with Chris Paul, who's not going to play a lot of games. He's injury prone. Or James Harden, who's basically your MVP. And you know James ain't going nowhere. They lost about two of those games that they probably should have won. But it is clear at this point that Mike D'Antoni can't coach James Harden. He can't coach Chris Paul. He can't. He don't know what he's doing. He has no clue. He's like a lost puppy in there trying to control two doggone German shepherds. So you need somebody in there who can control them and say, hey, shut the F up, I got it. You shut the F up, I got it. You need one of them coaches in there. You need a Mo Cheeks. Now, if Mo Cheeks is in there, he gonna shut it down. And ain't nobody gonna say nothing. That's what the Houston Rockets need. But as far as them two arguing back and forth, that's not even news. It's not even news. The players all know. I mean, it is what it is. But those two, it's not even news. Chris Paul talks to people very disrespectful. Like he'll have a point and he'll be on point, but he's very disrespectful. A lot of y'all don't even know DeAndre Jordan was gonna beat the living crap out of Chris Paul on the Clippers. Not a lot of people know that. You know, that's some inside information. But yeah, it almost went down. It's like for real. DeAndre Jordan was not. Yeah, he wasn't too receptive of Chris Paul's behavior, and they finna come to blows. And this happened a lot. So it is what it is. But that's why when you see Chris Paul getting into it with a bunch of people, or he don't really have a bunch of friends in there, you know, he has this group that he hangs with. Everybody else he thinks he's better than, that Napoleon complex. And somebody got to tell him, like, look, man, your contributions out here, you know, you're a great point guard, but you're declining now. You know, you're at that age when you're not as in shape as you used to be, and that jump shot is not looking as crisp as it used to, and you're breaking down, champ. But in his mind, he's still Chris Paul. He can get it done. But if they don't run any new wrinkles in their plays, I mean, they're beat. If they still doing the same spacing play, they'll go to the playoffs again next year. And then when it gets hot, they'll be out. So, boy Carcino, I'm out. Thank you guys for hitting up the Cash App. We appreciate it a lot. My name is Carcino on the Cash App if you want to do that. If not, click the link in the description box when you donate. Hit up the Streamlab. You know, we're going to see some new faces in there. We keep seeing the same old people. And we appreciate the same old people. Lil T, I saw you. Trigger, I saw you. Thank you guys so much. And I'm out.